Hey guys, welcome to the Actor's Guide to the Underworld podcast, where we talk about acting in Hollywood in a way people understand. I'm Econ Sung, and this is my co-host,
Rian Chihikari. What's happening?
As always, follow us wherever you find your podcast at Actor's Guide Podcast, where we have video on YouTube, on Substack, and follow us on all social media at Actor's Guide Podcast. So we have another special guest, Patrick Massett. Look at his IMDb.
Showrunner, producer.
He worked on Friday Night Lights, Blacklist, co-wrote the video game hit adaptation, Lara Croft Tomb Raider. The list goes on. We know that there's going to be a part 2.
He's got a ton of great Hollywood stories.
Started out as an actor, so we talk about that transition from acting to writing, what it was like to sell that first big hit, which was Lara Croft Tomb Raider. Behind the scenes on The Doors with Val Kilmer. We also talk about the transition that entertainment in Hollywood is making into the new digital age with AI, what he's seen with AI in the entertainment industry, and why he's not worried about it yet.
Patrick is also a good friend of mine, and I've known him for a number of years. I'm thrilled to be talking to him and digging a little deeper into his career, into his approach to writing, and just his approach to life. So,
all right, guys, sit back and relax. Enjoy this episode, and on with the show.
Like Master of the Universe kind of name. It's like a Marvel name, you know. It's like Econ.
Because a lot of people say, think it's my DJ name.
How did you end up? I mean, is that a family name or?
So it's my Chinese name. My parents are immigrants from China. My sister's name is Iana with an E dash in front. My name's E-K-A-N. They just kind of made it up because basically they were like, oh, well, these Chinese names are they're just too weird. Let's make it more English sounding so English speakers could say it. So this is literally not even real Chinese, E-K-A-N. And they're just like, oh, yeah, it's close enough. I was so stubborn because they tried to give me an English name growing up. And I was like, why are you calling me that? My name's Econ. And it stuck with me my entire life. And I'm so glad I did. And my sister stuck with her name, too. And the irony is my parents' name are Linda and Tony. And when they meet my parents, they go, yeah. I'm not joking around. So they got Linda. They got Tony. Anyway, so we're off to the races here. Let's get into this. So, Patrick, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh yeah,
I've heard so much about you through Rian already, so I already have tons of questions, and I'm sure Rian has tons. But let's just get from starting in the beginning. We're going to talk about all the shows and the films that you worked on. One of them is one of my all-time favorites, Friday Night Lights.
Let's start even further back to Nebraska. Let's start in Nebraska. That's what I want to know about.
Wait, is that Patrick? Is that where you're from?
I'm originally from Nebraska. Yeah, and my dad was a kind of a wild man. You know, spent a lot of time in bars and with irreputable women, but he loved movies. So when I didn't spend much time with him, but I always wanted to do something that he loved. So I sort of just gravitated towards writing and film and. Kind of be for him in a weird way. And, I also played football, so that helped. But really the first thing I ever did, I think, was Tomb Raider. But it was such a different world then. I was telling Rian about that. It's like the world we're in now, and just from 20 years ago, the industry has changed so incredibly. I mean, just the attitude. It's more about how people think about business and not just how they execute it. When we were making that, it was like, John and I had only written one thing. They loved it. So they brought us in. They said, what do you want to do next? And, there's this giant cutout of Lara Croft. And we're like, we want to do Tomb Raider. And it's like, that's this big giant video game. And they're like, no, you can't do that. We're going to get like a 5-star A-list, writer teams, whatever. So we said, well, fuck you. We went home and we called them back. We came up with a pitch the next day and we called them back. We had agents call and say, tell them that we're going to write the script. And if they don't at least hear our pitch, then, we're just going to write it. They're going to have to pay triple for it. We're like, and
where did you get the balls to like?
Well, that's the point I'm trying to make, because everybody in the story had giant balls. And that's how you got movies made back then. And people are trying to mitigate risk, and you can't do that in this business, So we went back, we pitched it. We got to the meeting and nobody showed up for like 2 hours. And finally they roll in and pitch it. And we were driving off the Warner Brothers lot. We get a call from our agent and said, Steven said, the director said that he loved it. He saw the whole movie. He wished he would have had a bag of popcorn. And we were off to the races. We went and pitched it to Paramount. They bought it. We went to London where they said, now here's another thing. They're banking on us, right? These two guys that had written one movie for them. And they sent us to London, and we've got 2 weeks to fulfill a contract to present a script to Eidos, the video game company, or they're going to have to pay $6 million more on top of what they've already paid. But here's that risk again. They're just fucking going for it. Why not? But they're like, we're going to set you guys up at a hotel. We were writing 24/7. In fact, one night we're playing music really loud. It's like 2:00 in the morning, and both of us are hammering out scenes. And all of a sudden, we hear like a fire truck outside. So we open up the balcony windows. We're like on the third floor, and there's a ladder coming up to our window because we had headphones on. We were writing and we were smoking, and they thought that our room was on fire.
That's how much you were smoking,
and that's how much we were smoking back then. And then like they would show up with like tons of cash, like every day the producer would show up with 300 pounds. Here's your per diem, but keep writing. We would go to the bar at night and order 200-year-old bottles of port. They were bringing it out and they're breaking the dirt. They're like Napoleonic era port, knowing that if the movie worked, they wouldn't care. And if it didn't work, we were getting fired anyway. So let's fucking go for it. So finally we get a call from business affairs and they're like, we don't want to bother you guys. We know you're on this crazy deadline, but, who's ordering the port? Because they were getting billed for like a couple $1,000s a night for this old wine. Anyway, we made the deadline. The movie got made. We got Angelina. That was a whole nother thing. But
Jolie, for anybody who's not familiar with the movie.
And the movie goes on to be, the most successful video game adaptation in history up until Super Mario. And it made a couple of $1 billion. But these guys were willing to throw millions and millions and millions at it at the beginning in order to make this one show. There was a time when I could go into, anybody could go into a network or studio and pitch a show and they would buy it in the room. They were writing a check for you as you're leaving. Now it's impossible. That's how it got done back then. A lot of buying, a lot of production, a lot of risk. And now people are just like, they think they can buy one or two things and get one or two hits out of that. And it just doesn't work like that. Plus there's the whole streaming problem now, which is.
We're definitely going to talk a lot about this because I love hearing these firsthand stories about the Hollywood that Rian and I dream of. Because I think everyone is trying to see. I want to hear all these old stories because I feel like there's in this new era of entertainment, there's so many people pining for what it used to be. And also it just so happens that you have seen these decades of the transition and also you're still working. So you've seen it, what it was like before, and you actually see it, what it's like now, and you're still working and you're still successful. So, and for the audience, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, 2001, Angelina Jolie, obviously. You co-wrote that with John Zimman, I believe is that your longtime collaborator partner. This is so early in the game as far as video game adaptations, right? People are still trying to chase the video game blockbuster now.
Yeah.
Some have hit, some haven't, some have missed, but Lara Croft is almost like the gemstone of what people are trying to get for a video game adaptation. And then that's also a lot earlier before the whole video game boom. So let's just kind of go back into Nebraska.
Yeah, I want to start even. Yeah, like you're saying.
Spend too much time there, to be honest with you.
No, not at all. But I'd love to know, like, when did you think that being a writer could be a viable career, being a screenwriter could be a viable career? Because that's not a thought that occurs to a lot of people, I would guess.
Also, in general, the arts. How did you even gravitate to that? Just because growing up enjoying movies and then your relationship with your father, like how did it all kind of start?
It started from it's really weird, but from a very young age, I liked to write poems. I loved reading the lyrics on the. We used to get like albums, and inside the sleeves were the lyrics, and I loved reading lyrics of music. And my dad he was erudite for being this crazy redneck, but he loved to read, and he kind of passed that along to me. And I don't know, man. It's just like I never felt like it was a good business model. I never felt like, oh, this is a great career move. I'm going to go write and get into Hollywood because I feel like it's a great way to make a living and make money and be successful. It was more like it was just a passion. I just really wanted to pursue. I was so curious about the business and the industry. And I landed in LA without knowing anybody and having any contacts, zero. I mean, actually, there was one. His name was Val Kilmer, who I had done a play with in Colorado, and we had become friends.
No. Wait, you did a play with Val Kilmer in Colorado?
I did a play and a movie, 2 movies.
Wow.
Before
you got to LA?
After. Before I got to LA, I did a play with him. And when I got here, I asked him for some help, and he submitted a script for me. It didn't go anywhere, but he tried. But then he and I ended up doing Gore Vidal's Billy the Kid for TMC, and then we ended up doing Thunderheart together, which I did some writing on and some acting. And then
I want to get into your acting career as well.
I know exactly.
And then I was sort of like around helping him with the dialogue on the Doors, which was really a lot of fun.
Oh wow!
Stone, who was
incredible.
So anyway, to answer your question, Rian, it wasn't a business thing. It was just my heart, my passion, a lot of ignorance, a lot of like naivete, I would say, more than ignorance, but I just wanted to do something the moment there were 2 moments in me for film that I thought, okay, I have to do movies. And one was Easy Rider. My dad took me to it when I was like 10. And I was like, wow, that was just a weird, trippy movie that I thought was and the other one was Star Wars, because I was 14 years old or something when the original Star Wars came out, and when this opened with this giant scroll and then the space cruiser comes over the top of my head, I was just so blown away by the magic of that. And also growing up in Nebraska was hard, man. It was tough. We did not have a lot. We were farmers, and it was hard slogging. And it just seemed like that being able to escape into those other worlds just seemed like a way of just a better way of living, just to get out of my own head in a way.
Yeah,
I love that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think we can both relate to the naivete and the because I moved to LA I moved to America with I didn't know it. I knew one person, my buddy Kevin. I didn't have any clue what LA was like, what the business was like, what America was like. So, I can certainly relate to that, just landing here and going, what is this place? Because it's wild, and obviously you made a massive success out of it, and that's a kind of a rare story,
I got really lucky. I was at a bar one night, and a guy hands me, and guy was telling me he was a screenwriter, and he goes, "Oh, you got to listen to these tapes." And this was pre cell phone, so I called him on a payphone the next day because I didn't have a phone, and he said, "Yeah, come over to my house, and I'll give you these tapes." And they were the Robert McKee tapes, a live lecture on the story, the book called Story. And it was that live lecture. And that's how I learned structure. And then from there, I picked up 2 other books. Then I wrote 2 screenplays, and I got an agent from that, so it was just it was just all this like self-generated sort of bouncing around, following my instincts kind of thing. Yeah. And then I wrote my first script that I sold. I happened to share it with John Zinman, who was at a theater company that I had seen, and he gave me some notes, and I sold it. And at the time, I was with my wife Mary, and we had 3 kids, and I was completely broke. We hadn't paid our rent in 3 months. I had a crazy landlord who was threatening to chop down our door with a chainsaw, telling us we had to get over this movie habit bullshit and get a real job.
And have you?
No. And then I sold this movie to MGM, and it paid all of our bills. It got us to zero. Basically, it just got us back to where we could begin to like breathe a little bit. And then soon after that, I met John, and then we did Tomb Raider pretty quickly after that.
Amazing.
That's amazing. One thing that I agree, and I think that's going to be a theme here. Much like Rian, I moved out to LA with no connections, no nothing. This is before smartphones and just having Google. Like we're using those big Thomas guides.
Yeah, that's right. So you remember that?
My point
amazing. Yeah, you look too young.
I know. A little snippet in how far back that was, but it's like I just want to just reiterate. This is what taking risks were like, and I wasn't even taking the biggest risk, but it's like. When we say these stories, that's what I miss when today everything and any information is online, and when people take risks, they're scared of making that social media post.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I just feel like there's a difference between like what risks are today, and I feel like we're kind of losing that excitement and that danger.
No, that's a really good point, man. This guy behind me here in this picture. That's this photograph is so amazing because it's Mick Jagger watching himself on. Can you see that? It's Mick Jagger, laying on bed watching himself on the Ed Sullivan Show. Now, if you read his biography, he was going to the London School of Economics, and he still hadn't decided if he was going to do this musical bullshit or if he was going to go to the London School and finish and become a great accountant because he was so smart. And so he's like, again, it's like he took that risk. He said he made that leap, pulled away from his parents and this future, and said, "Fuck it, I'm going to try this thing with these guys called the Rolling Stones, I guess." And he became the greatest rock star in the world. But in that moment, if you read the biography, he still hadn't made his decision whether or not he was going to do music. He was like,
funnily enough,
what he's watching is like, is this going to work or not?
Yeah. I still think that sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
I actually formed a production company in Ireland called Risk Productions because my initials are RSK, and I thought that'd be a cool
That's
risk.
Cool.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I love that idea of like, is this going to work? It's the gamble, like you said, like selling that script to MGM, and it gets you back to zero, and you're on the road, and you're in the game,
and momentum.
When we were trying to get Angelina Jolie onto Tomb Raider. We can move on to other stuff. But there's just so much in that thing where she, we were sitting around in Larry Gordon's office, and we have the script, and we've got the green light. We got to get an actor. If we get the actor, we go into production. And we can't, we all wanted Angelina, but everybody kept saying, she's not doing well right now. She's with Billy Bob. She's partying a lot. Everybody knew that. It wasn't like a secret, but she was like, but we basically, John and I basically said, go call her manager back and say, we're going to get her in the best shape of her life. We're going to do ropes courses, and she's going to, get a trainer, a nutritionist. She's going to learn to ride motorcycles and fight Cobb McGraw. She's going to be in 3 months before she starts to roll a frame of film, she's going to be a super badass in the best shape of her life. And we're like, so he called her back, called the manager back, couldn't get a hold of the agent. And the manager called him back in an hour after that pitch and said, she'll do it. And she signed a 3-picture deal based on that. And if you look at her physically before Tomb Raider and then what she looked like in the movie, she's a different person. So we actually did that for her, and she did that for herself. And she's an amazing human being, and I love her. And I didn't really get to know her that well, to be honest with you. But I do know that was something that we had suggested, and she went for it. Again, it's like she took that. It's like it's everything that I've ever done. Friday Night Lights, Blacklisters. I can tell you stories beyond stories where people just going, let the dice fly high, man. Let's just go for it. Let's just take a chance.
One thing I want to add to that is if you told me that you were going to pitch Lara Croft Tomb Raider, an early video game adaptation, and Angelina Jolie was going to have hesitations, I wouldn't have assumed it was the physicality. I would have assumed that maybe an actor would judge a video game adaptation before that they're proven from,
that's a great point, man. Yeah.
It's like there's a million reasons why actors could be hesitating, and there was no judgment there. It was mostly about the physicality that she would have to prepare for. So that's also a credit to her. I've heard amazing things about her work ethic and her passion for her craft. So.
And she, that's a really good point, man, because she was an artist and she was doing a lot of indie work and some studio things, but more things that were leaning more towards straight drama. So for her to jump into a big action genre piece like that, I think again, she just let the dice fly high. She said, why not? Let's give it a try. And the movie ends up being really popular. And who gives a fuck what the critics say? It was just really made a lot of money, John and I were only involved in the second one. We pitched them the idea, and they loved it, and they paid us full freight for it, and then they hired another writer. So, again, that's just like that. That gets into another complete version of Hollywood, which is this risk mitigation. Let's just go now that we have success over here. Let's try something else to get even more success, as opposed to going the same thing. When we get into Friday Night Lights, Friday Night Lights, we got canceled every year for 5 years. We would always find a way. We would either cut the budget, or we would go work with DirecTV, or we would do whatever we had to do to figure out a way to stay on the air. And it was always just, that was just a thing of passion. But our budget went down every single year. Where most shows
for such a successful show as well.
We would get it got to be so bad that we were shooting without lighting. We'd walk into it like a house. We'd move everybody's shit around, put a few pictures that looked like Coach and Tammy's. We would we'd go in and shoot with 3 cameras, 16 millimeter bullies, and then be on the move again before the lighting truck even showed up. That's how fast we had to do it. Because it was this passion. Let's just get this made. If we can just keep going, we will create something that everybody will love. And eventually, the passion and hard work that we put into it, and the overcoming of the obstacles, paid off. And people began to really find the show.
And just a note on when you say Larry Gordon, that's Larry Gordon who produced, a ton of stuff from
Tomb Raider,
Predator to Field of Dreams to all of these sort of massive movies, Hellboy, Watchmen.
Yeah, Larry was an amazing producer, and we'd go to his conference room. He had like 5 little toy poodles running around, and so you'd be at any given moment your feet would be attacked. So you'd be in a meeting, kind of like having to jump around. Him and Lloyd Levin were a great team, and they worked really hard, and they really believed, they really supported writers, they were great. And he obviously had a huge career.
Amazing.
So I don't want to gloss over the acting part of your career. Can you talk about that? So because you kind of have, you kind of started out with Lara Croft, but Rian and I are so intrigued by what happened before that.
Yeah.
Can you kind of connect the dots here? Because it seems like you definitely connect or resonate with the writing part of your career more than the acting.
Yeah, I think the acting thing was, if somebody asked me to try it, and I did a bunch of TV and some movies. I did like Thunderheart and Gore Vidal's Billy the Kid and a few other, got into a few other roles, but a lot of network TV. This was before streaming was really taking off. And what happened was I just kept wanting to write, kept being pulled towards that. But the acting was paying the bills a little bit. But what happened, guys, was I kept getting if you look at my career, if you like when I started doing like Quantum Leap and China Beach and all these other episodes of these great shows that were on at the time, I kept getting cast as the bad guy. I did Star Trek. I was like the worst bad guy in the history. I tried to kill Worf. I mean, I was just like bad guy, And I didn't I just see myself as a really nice person, and I didn't want to be just cast as like the Jack Nicholson thing. I was supposed to be like that guy all the time.
Yeah, it's a testament to your acting, though, because, you kept working and you kept getting cast on big shows. I mean, that's not an easy thing to even have that, in your history. And I was booking these network shows. I mean, that's no small feat. But then
agreed. A lot of actors would kill for credits like that and be making money as an actor. I mean,
yeah, it was fun. And guys, it was just like it's like, well, I'd done the Star Trek and I had gotten the reoccurrings here and there. That was really satisfying, and I loved it. Yeah, I loved it when Gene Roddenberry would walk up to you on the set and go, Klingons really prefer their gok served live. You're like, what fucking side am I on, man? This guy's out of his mind. But he created Star Trek.
Back off, Gene. I know.
But seriously, that happened to me on Stage 19, which is where Star Trek was shot on Paramount. But it was just, guys, it was just like, I loved it, and I'm grateful for the time I had to do that, but my heart was really like not in front of the camera. I lost my courage to do what you guys do. Acting is so hard, and it takes so much craft, and I really respect and admire the craft that goes into it. And I felt like a bit of a fraud. I didn't feel like that was really me. I thought really what was me was to try to tell stories. And one of the best shows I was ever on was with Ron Moore and Caprica. And the weird thing is that the first episode of Star Trek that I did was written by Ron Moore. And so that was when I was in there trying to, after he had done Battlestar Galactica and he was bringing up Caprica, he goes, we started talking, and we suddenly realized that I had played this character that he had written, and it was his first script that he had ever gotten produced. So, and then now Ron Moore's gone on to become fucking Ron Moore. You know, he's got
Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, all of the Star Treks. For All Mankind, Outlander, huge show, massive show.
Yeah, these are all shows that he created, created and ran. I mean, so Ron was amazing, but I just love that we had that connection. You know, that was back in the day where, you know, you walked into an audition and then like you had to go there in person, and then a lot of times you would be told to go to wardrobe immediately because you're shooting tomorrow. I mean, that's how a lot of TV was just done. And it was just always fun. Always a little crazy, always by the seat of your pants. And people were willing to just take these chances to do whatever they had to do to get things made. You know?
I feel like we really missed out on like the golden era of Hollywood. I mean, now,
I miss it,
you know,
I really do. Like, I think we have to bring it back. I think people have to realize if we're going to get out of this slump, we're going to dig our way out of this thing. The powers that be, the Bezoses of the world, and the people that have money just need to start spending money again, and they'll find that success will come, you know, and just roll the dice and just keep making things, keep trying different things, you know, and everybody's just so wound so tight these days. It's really a bummer for everybody.
It can certainly feel quite sterile because, you know, we've talked about this a lot in the podcast, myself and Ekan, like about the self-tape world versus, you know,
what's that like for you guys to have to self-tape? I mean,
I like it, you know. I do enjoy it because you have a lot of control. You can kind of set it up. There's a kind of there's a creative process in trying to figure out how. It's like a little puzzle. You know, how do I make all these?
You guys paid for that?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
no,
that's the hard part. I mean, now you are responsible for all the equipment, getting a reader. You are doing the job that a casting director used to do. A lot of it, you know, you're not taking direction, you're not getting notes, so you're kind of just giving your own version of something, and there's some freedom in that, but there's a lack of collaboration which can feel a bit frustrating at times. Yeah, a bit isolating. Exactly, because you're kind of firing these things. Yeah,
sterilized is a great word because Rian and I are fairly tech friendly, and we like the filmmaking process, and it was an easier transition compared to those who were like, hey, I still haven't figured out Zoom after 3 years. You know what I mean? So it's like it could go both ways. And I think kind of like what I want to talk about as this episode goes on is how technology has changed how we have to do business. And you kind of have to adapt to the changes or, hey, pick up another career. Rian and I have had those experiences going into a room on the lot where there's 10 producers sitting in front of you. I love that. I don't miss that. But it's one of those things where it's like we had that experience where you're doing self-tape, you know, in your garage on vacation. It's such a different world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't want to gloss over you doing a play with Val Kilmer. So we just one more question about your acting. You happen to do a play with Val Kilmer. That's a long time. Before you actually start to get paid to write. So can you talk about what that was like where you're like, hey, I'm just doing this to...
I took acting pretty seriously when I was when I was working in the theater. That was like, okay, so here's like how it started. I was a quarterback at a high school in Nebraska. And when I would go into the huddle to call the plays, I would talk so extremely fast because I was so nervous that the team couldn't hear me. I would like call the play. I'd run up to the line. They'd all be looking back at me like, what the fuck did you say? So the coach sent me to the acting teacher and said, teach this guy how to talk slower when he's nervous. And she did. Great acting teacher in high school. Anyway, she taught me how to slow my speech down and when I was under pressure. And then she asked me to play a role in an Arthur Miller play. The Crucible. She asked me to play John Proctor at this high school production. And I did, and I loved it. And I thought, theater is great. Theater is really like, this is art, you know? And so when I met Val, I got cast in Hamlet at the Colorado Shakespeare Festival. It was because I just wanted to act anywhere I could. And the summer Shakespeare festivals are a fucking blast. So there's so many of them, and you audition, then you get in, and you get to move someplace, and you get a little dorm with somebody, and there's just everybody's it's very communal, and you're living together, and it's just a lot of fun. And Val was playing Hamlet in Colorado, and I was playing Horatio, and he and I ended up becoming really good friends, And
what had he done before that? Was he a name of any kind? So he
my
was.
God.
He was. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
He was the Iceman. Yeah, he was Iceman. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, we're aware. It just that was like the prime Val Kilmer time. That's not bad. Timing was always on your side in a way. We'll probably talk about that at the end of the podcast.
Luck's a big thing, guys. And Val was absolutely incredible, and he was his Hamlet was brilliant. And then later in life, he had me read the Mark Twain one-man show that he did. I don't know if you guys ever had a chance to see that one.
Oh, I heard about that.
Sick.
I heard about that.
He came over to my house in Malibu like the last couple of years before he passed, and we spent some time together. And he pissed off a lot of people, and he hurt a lot of people. He was a bit of a, he had this ability to really make people angry. But I knew this other side of him. That was, when we were working on The Doors, we had met in Colorado. We did the couple of movies together. And then when he was doing The Doors, he asked me to come and just work through the scenes with him and talk about his acting and like the things that he could say that made sense. Oliver Stone will deny this, but honestly, it's like Val was at a rehearsal once, and I look up at him and I go, "Hey man, let's get out of here. Let's go get some tacos." And the opening of the movie is Jim Morrison standing on a stage going, "Hey, man, let's go get some tacos." So that was an actor and a writer not even trying to put something in a movie that ended up in the opening of the film. He was so committed to that role. I mean, he changed. Like that's when I knew that I'm never going to be able to touch that. He was so committed to transforming and to living in the skin of Jim and to knowing everything he could possibly know about Morrison, listening to everything he ever sang, everything he ever wrote, every person that ever had a conversation with him. And he transformed. This is a guy that I had known for 5-6 years at the time, and I didn't recognize him when I would see him on stage because he had become this other person. And that's what I knew I could never do personally. Like that takes another level of self-confidence to be able to let yourself go. That he was able to exhibit, and that's where I really learned what acting was watching Val. If you ever get a chance, to watch The Doors, if you haven't seen it, listen to a couple of Doors records and then watch him, and you'll go, "Holy fuck, he's Jim Morrison."
Yeah.
God bless you, Val.
I was actually just trying to piece together. So the time difference between Top Gun was in 1986 and then The Doors in 1991. So that's peak Val Kilmer right there.
Yeah. And then I think he did what's that great Western that he did? He played Doc Holliday.
Oh, Tombstone.
Oh, yeah. Tombstone, yeah.
Yeah. That's I think is the role that he most identified with personally. Like if you asked him like which character was most like you, he would say Doc Holliday.
I watched an interview with him recently where he was talking about how he even got the vocal cadence for that role, and like when you say, just immersed in a role, like what an incredible actor, really, and I think in some ways underrated, like not really appreciated
100%.
for how good he was,
I think a lot of actors really see that, but you're right, and maybe not the rest of the world of the industry, but I think actors really admired what he could do and could see what he could do.
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of controversy about The Doors and behind the scenes. If you have any stories,
I can only say I'll tell you this in a very broad way, and again, a tribute to like the art of filmmaking. Oliver Stone transformed the set of The Doors into a 1960s music festival. It was music and partying and drugs. It's just awesome, man. It was just like make everybody feel like they were they were living in the world of the movie they were making.
And then you put in Meg Ryan.
So sweet. I never even met her, but 'cause I never was around when they were shooting those things.
She was hiding in her trailer because she was scared of.
I was probably not. I was banned from the set, and I was, he didn't want me around.
So one other thing, going back to, we'll move on from Nebraska, but I've heard of. I personally will suggest everyone going to an acting class or a voice class, whether you're a teacher, fireman, doctor. I think it's so valuable to be able to communicate. But a Nebraska quarterback, that's the first time I ever heard that.
Yeah, and that changed my life, honestly. It was like because I would seriously, it'd be like, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4. I was just dip through it. I was so amped, and I couldn't control myself. And really, one of the most, like you're saying, Akon, it's like one of the most important things you can do in this world is to be able to communicate well. Acting is a great way of learning it. Yeah, absolutely.
I think people have sort of lost the art of, that vocal training that you get in theater, and then even the warm-ups you have to do in theater, because I think people just don't really focus on it anymore. And I'm guilty of it myself. You know what I mean? I don't know. Do you, Econ? Do you?
I actually do a vocal warm-up literally every day. And
wow.
Are these warm-ups like? Are you like doing? Is it breathing mostly, or is it? Are you like doing like plosives, or
all of it?
Yeah, the breathing is like really, really, I think, really essential.
It's this idea of being able to speak under duress, whatever that is, wherever you're holding tension.
Public speaking. I mean, man, it's like that's really.
My sister was having vocal issues that, as a teacher, I got her to start doing these vocal exercises, and they went away. And this is why we do it. My mom is.
And Econ, what did you do? Did you grow up? Did you have an accent? Did you?
I was working hard to get rid of my South Jersey Philly accent.
Why?
Water.
I just wanted to jump in there. Speaking of accents, so this is a little tidbit in the history of me and Patrick. We didn't know each other at all, but I was living in Chicago. My first ever TV audition in America was for a show called The Chicago Code, which at the time was called Ride Along. Yeah, it was called Ride Along at the beginning, right? At that point?
Yeah. Which was an episode that I had written. And I was in the room when we were auditioning. Yeah,
that's amazing.
That is wild, because it was a part of was it an informant, and he was Irish. I thought he was Irish, but it was Southside Chicago Irish, and I didn't know that until in the room of the audition. And I said to the casting director, Claire Simon, I was like, "Wait, this guy. Just to be clear, this guy's Irish." She goes, "No, Southside Chicago Irish." And I was like, and all the blood drained from my face. And
classic Rian story. This is history.
The rest of the audition was a blur, and I came out going, "Oh no!" I thought I was going to get kicked out of show business. I was never going to audition again.
You know what? Though you were great. We just went with an older guy. I think he was much older than you. Sean Ryan was the creator showrunner. John and I were his second command executive producers. I just have to say this because he's just, I did 3 shows with Sean, and I just respect him and admire him so much. The first cop show he ever did, he was the guy at the end of the pilot where a cop killed another cop. And that cop that killed the cop becomes the hero of the show. I mean, how fucking brilliant is that? That's The Shield. That was Sean Ryan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's his big coming out party is The Shield, right?
That's right. And that was the coming out moment where everybody went, "Oh," because nobody had ever seen that shit on TV ever.
Yeah.
And all of the procedurals and all of the cop shows that have ever been done, you can't take the hero and have him fucking kill a cop.
We entered into an era of TV where the anti-hero was just starting to hit its prime with The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, and you realize that
it, man. Yeah,
that was entering into a great era of TV right there.
Yeah, and Mad Men and stuff, and it was like, I think Sean really had a big part of igniting that fuse, honestly, with that moment.
And kind of amazing that that's where our paths crossed, but we didn't know each other until years later in LA. Like that was but they had crossed awesome. In 2007, 2008.
I think it was 11 or 12 actually. Yeah.
I guess let's go back to the transition from acting to writing. What was the moment, if there was, where you were like, I want to commit to writing and acting is going to be in the rear view?
Man, that's a really, I don't think there was a moment, Egon. I think I was sort of in and out of both worlds there where I started the transition. I was afraid to really try screenwriting because I felt like it was going to be really hard. But then at some point, it was just like emotionally, I wasn't feeling like I was able to keep up with what was going on in acting. It just seemed so hard and so emotionally rich, and just like I wanted to hide behind a screen, you know. And then I had a story that I really thought I'd like to try writing, and then this guy hands me these tapes, and it was just like this series of events, you know. And I think I was writing, and I was still getting like acting jobs there at the end, and then I finally, when I just decided to commit to it, I knew that Val said, I remember Val telling me, you're probably going to have to write 5 or 6 screenplays before you sell one. And he was right. I wrote 7 screenplays before I sold one. And it was hard. And it took a lot of commitment, a lot of work. And, you know, but it's just like, if you're an actor and it's in you, like it is with you guys, you gotta follow it. You don't have a choice. Yeah. But for me, it was like my heart had gone into the idea of storytelling through the written medium. And so that was,
you knew where your vision was, you knew where your passion was, and you listened to that. And I feel like that can easily get lost in our world where we could do a million things on our phone or a million jobs on our phone, and where do we go? But it's great that you were able to listen to that voice.
Well, again, it's like this whole thing that we do. It's not accounting. It's not. It's really like you got it. It's a lot of it's still from our heart. A lot of it has to do with taking chances, being willing to take chances, and and then getting yourself around the right people. You know, it's like everything I've ever done is because I was lucky enough to be around really super talented people, great actors.
Yeah.
All the actors on Friday Night Lights, nobody had any experience, except Coach, Chandler and Connie. But the kids, none of them had any real experience. And we gave them the best opportunity to explore acting because we didn't make them use marks. We just put up 3 cameras and here's the scene and just move around any way you like and we'll find you. And that's why it looks.
Oh, that's interesting.
But it also gave them this freedom to just find themselves as opposed to having to think about get here, say it here, move over here, say this. Blocking was gone. Marks were gone. Just make the scene happen. Get in this room and we'll shoot it for you.
We can jump into Friday Night Lights, but just even the process of writing for you, because I've read a lot of your scripts and you're an incredible writer in that, like, they're so engaging and they just keep you in it. You can see the whole world. But just
thank you.
The actual process of writing, you find writing quite easy, right? To sit down and do as a process, because we talked to Kirsten Sheridan, who's a writer and director, and she still finds it a grind to make herself sit down and do this, to do this work. But that's always come quite easy to you, right? The process of it?
For some reason I love it. It's just I know from experience then is that you just have to have I spend a lot of time thinking about what I'm going to write before I sit down. And then I write a really long outline, really detailed outline before I write a scene. And then I write a lot. Then I write the scenes out to put the screenplay or the teleplay together. And then I do I get notes from everybody, man. I want to hear what everybody thinks. And because I feel like as an individual, one person is okay, but a lot of people, an audience, for example, is genius. So if I give it to 5 people, I'm going to get a lot of similar notes, and those are going to be the problems.
I love that.
Wow.
And it's like, and I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of, and also I know, and I think this applies to acting too in a big way, which is if I do what I know is like my absolute best, and I'm as thorough as I can possibly be, and I think of every angle and every way of telling this beat, or making sure that everybody has a chance to chime in and be open to what people have to say, then rejection doesn't bother me, because I've written a lot of stuff that people haven't made, and it doesn't bother me because I know that what I wrote was the best I could do at that time. And I think that applies to acting too. If you're putting together an audition and people don't cast you, that's not because you're not brilliant. It's just because you're not right for the part. Like in Chicago Code, I remember the guy we cast in that part. He was much older. He was kind of chunky and blah, kind of more of a, almost more of a typical typecasting. You would have been a little more offbeat. But it wasn't because you weren't great. It wasn't because you didn't do a great job. It was because you just didn't fit. And a lot of times that's what happens in acting. It's like, you just have to know that when you go in there for your audition, and rejection is going to bounce off you if you know if you fucking nailed it, because there's so many things that can go like against you. Type, age, a person's like a friend, a personal contact, your status, your race, everything. A lot of shit has to come together for a person to get a role. Yeah. So that's why as the artist, we have to be completely 100% confident that we've done everything we can to do our best. And then it's in God's hands, honestly.
Yeah. But I love the lack of preciousness with that and the humility. Like, you put it out there and you're open to notes. Because I love notes, because I don't ever feel like, oh, I nailed it. I've never come away from something going, nailed that. Couldn't have done any better. That was about, that was something. I'll come away going, that was the best I could have done at that time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it can always be better. But I really welcome notes. I don't see them as a personal criticism.
Right. And ultimately, we're doing this for an audience. You're writing for an audience. You're acting for an audience. So why not ask the audience what they think?
This idea of being objective, rewriting your material and trying to improve your craft. How did you hone that muscle, or were you always like that?
I just learned that, I just learned pretty early on that it was a fool's errand to try to think I was going to do something by myself in this business. This is a collaborative art form. This is like, there are some guys that can write and produce and star and do all that all by themselves, but they're still not doing craft service. They're still not lighting. They're still not transpo. We do this as a community. When you make a movie, when you make a TV show, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about the community that comes together to create something. If it's a show, if it's a short film, we've all experienced it. It feels like a family. Even if you're there for a day or a week or a year, it feels like a family. And it's like, so once I learned that pretty early on, which I loved, I just went, it's okay. It's okay to just share. It's okay to be open. It's okay to listen and take notes. I don't always agree, but I'm willing to hear what you have to say. But I also read a biography by Elia Kazan, who was doing East of Eden with James Dean. And he was shooting in New York, and he's staying at a hotel, and the doorman walks up to him. He says, "Hey, I read your script." It's like the doorman had gotten a copy of East of Eden. He goes, "Okay." He goes, "I had some thoughts for you." And Elia Kazan goes, "Okay, what are you thinking?" And he told him. And the next day, Kazan said, and this is what Kazan wrote. He said he put it in the script. He goes, "I don't care where the idea comes from. I don't fucking care where who gives me the note. I don't care. If it's better,
I love that.
If it's going to make the story better, I'm going to do it."
Not only the really great directors and writers, but also the ones that you want to work with. If a great joke comes from the guy who's rigging the lights, if it's a great joke, it's a great joke. Put it in. There's no ego about it, and that's this type of set that I respect and
what's the
love
difference
to be on
between
too.
that and getting a set of formal notes, or asking your friend to give you notes, or asking your group of friends, or asking the executive that's like, a lot of times the executives now, if I'm going to be really honest, are a lot younger than me and have a lot less experience, but that doesn't mean that they don't have great ideas, and you have to be open to that. There's a great story with William Goldman, who did, he just did some of the great
Adventures in Screen Trade.
And he did, I think his most famous film is Bush and Sundance. But William Goldman is known as being one of the greatest screenwriters. And I think he was one of the last writers that could get movies greenlit as the writer. Think about that. And one day he walks into a meeting with a young executive at Paramount, and the guy doesn't really know who he is. And he goes, "So tell me, Mr. Goldman, what have you done?" And William goes, "You go first."
What a line. I love that.
He's also the one that popularized No One Knows Anything.
2 fucking Oscars on the desk or something.
He's also the one who pioneered the line, no one knows anything.
That's right.
In Hollywood.
And that's exactly right. And that's why you have to make a lot of shit. That's why you guys should be working every day on shows that are being invented all the time. Networks should be making 30 or 40 pilots a year, trying to get 1 or 2 to crack.
Agreed.
And everybody should be working and just because nobody knows.
I saw an interview with Michael Caine recently that just popped up, on Instagram or something, where he was talking about how doing bad movies is, I've done a lot of bad movies. And he said, but he doesn't, because he's like, his theory being that like the person who turns them down, the actor that goes, no, I'm not doing that, it's terrible. And then the big one comes along and they're, they haven't been working for 2 years. So they're not ready. They're not warmed up. They're not in it. And in the meantime, he's paying the bills and he's gaining experience and he's working and he's working and he's working. And then the big one comes along, he's ready,
Yeah.
Just keep making stuff. I know actors who turn down things out of fear. No, I don't want to be associated with that. Just keep doing it.
Commercials, short films, whatever you can do, plays, Rian, I know you've done
everything.
Rian, you've done everything. I don't know your resume as well. I know you've done a lot of network TV, but Rian, I know you've done a lot of different shit, plays and book readings and, lots of cool Irish TV shows. I mean, I really admire that. I really do. I think that's the right path for everybody.
I just love it.
Social media and data and responses, that's feedback. It just so happens that in this day and age, it's actually easier to get feedback. You mention a thing or a thought on Twitter or Threads and it blows up. You're like, wow, people were interested in that?
Well, you're really cracking into a very interesting area of conversation if you want to talk about data and you want to talk about like the age of information that we're in now, which is really kind of terrifying in a way, but also like you have to talk about how do we adapt, Econ? I don't know. I'm not really sure yet. I've always been really good at, and you have to be really good in this business to adapting to the new times as they roll out, finding new things to do. Like you guys are brilliant because you're not sitting around waiting to be an actor. You created your own show. And this platform, you can do anything with it. You start showing movies, or you can start showing short films in the middle of your podcast, and start owning some of your own stuff, and create your own show from the podcast if you wanted to. Yeah. That's adapting.
Very true.
Times,
Write that down, Econ.
An AI algorithm. You like these earbuds, you like this shirt, you like this music, you like this movie, you like this car. That's 5 likes. It already knows what you like to wear, what you like to drive, and what you like to listen to. That's the algorithm already knows that from 5 thumbs up. And still, Econ, like you were saying, with all that information, we still don't know really how to predict how we're going to respond as an audience, as a group.
Yeah.
Maybe the algorithm may know how we're going to respond as individuals, but it may not know how we're going to respond as a large group, as 100 people in a movie theater.
You're completely right. Data probably is a triggering kind of different conversation. You're completely right. I think what I was getting at is feedback.
Yeah, right.
But what gives me a little bit of hope is something that you said already, is that nobody knows how an audience is going to react. For something to be a hit, there's an unknown quantity there, which I think AI can't replicate or predict accurately yet, and hopefully never, is that there's a human element. The idea of an audience is unpredictable. Like something can become a hit for many reasons, something can fail for many reasons. And in order for something to become a hit, like I think it's a miracle that anything gets made or becomes a hit at all, because as you said, it's a collaborative art form, maybe the most collaborative art form in my opinion, because so many people have to come together to make something. And then so many things have to go right in order for that to be a success. And I don't think AI can accurately or technology can accurately predict that. And I love that.
I completely agree. The magic is in the unknown. If everything was always going to happen the way that you wanted it to, like perfect AI videos or whatever, it's not fun. Without the human element of this could be a bomb, it's not fun. This is the danger. When we talk about data and algorithms, they're constantly changing their algorithm. And next thing you know, the way that it gets directed to everyone, slowly we're all watching the same videos. Slowly we're all groupthink and mind thinking, we have very little understanding of how these algorithms are actually controlling how we think. And I don't want to be conspiracy theorist, but
no, you're not. You're exactly spot on. It's really like, it goes back to like what drives our economy. We're in an entertainment business. There's this personal thing that we're talking about, which is the personal experience that we all love of being entertained, of watching a great film, of laughing or crying or being blown away by whatever insights are being shared. It's an incredible thing that we all work in. It's like so special and unique. We are subjected to the growth of economy, and we live in a capitalistic world that is based on perpetual growth. And there's this magical idea called credit, where a bank can have $1 million in, like today, right now, Rian, if you had $1 million in the bank, and you opened up a bank, that means you could loan 7 times the value of that legally. You could probably do more. So that's the magic of commerce, perpetual growth. That's how money grows, and that's how people take chances and take risks and buy things. Well, first it was cars, and then we'll just move through history here. Cars, everybody had to have a car. Then everybody got a car. We needed something new. Well, now there's TV. Well, everybody has to go buy a TV, and the electronic age sort of came in. Everybody had to get some TVs. Then it was like
computers,
right? So now the computer age happens, and everybody gets an Apple, and everybody's got an iPhone. So what's the next thing that we're going to do? The next thing that's going to really be the big game changer in the economy and the growth economy is going to be AI. But it's the first time in history that the thing that's going to that science has always contributed to, the next thing, this AI thing, is going to be also the thing that can destroy us, which we've never had before. The last thing that we had that could destroy the world was the atomic bomb. We blew 2 of them up in Japan, excuse me. And that was it. The world decided we could never do that again. But right now, the world's not deciding that we can never do AI. As for what we have to do is we have to fight that shit. Because as soon as, resist as much as we can. It is a resistance moment until there's an atomic bomb moment where the world can wake up and go, we can't do this anymore. We have to try to resist as long as we can until that seminal moment happens where we all decide there has to be regulation. The problem with global regulation right now is that nobody wants to stop. China's competing with the U.S. The U.S. is competing with France. Everybody's got their own AI, their own algorithms, and everybody's competing, and nobody's willing to stop, because as soon as they stop, someone's going to get ahead of them.
Exactly. This is like the Cold War, and I think that's a good metaphor for all this stuff. We have to realize the power of all this, and still a lot of people are learning the power of all this. A lot of people are learning the danger. By the way, it wasn't too long ago that you had Zuckerberg explaining to Congress what Facebook was. It's like, you know what I mean? It's
a series of tubes.
We need to get up to speed, and we need to get to regulations sooner than later.
Here's the really scary part about what you just said. To really take it to the terror level, it's like there's always been throughout history a man in the right place at the right time, right? Augusta was in the right place to run Rome and create the Pax Romana. Napoleon, like him or hate him, really reshaped Europe and brought in the Enlightenment. FDR during World War II defeated Hitler with Churchill. Those are the men. They were the men of their times. They were the right men who could deal with what was happening and create the positive change that was needed. We don't have those leaders right now. We need somebody. We need a man. Maybe it's one of you guys. We need a leader to step up and be the.
I choose Rian.
Be the FDR, be the Napoleon, and lead us out of these really, really difficult, complicated.
Ultimately, we have to get to a point where, hey, maybe it's not the best thing that we find the cheapest, biggest, baddest thing, and we can actually put humanity first. Yet right now, they're chasing after lobby dollars.
Yeah.
And then that's where we are.
And to bring it back from a macro level to sort of a micro level, what have you seen in terms of AI in your particular profession? Have you seen people start to use it more? Have you seen? Yeah. Do you has it become incorporated? Yeah. Is it a big problem? Do people stay away from it? How does it work in terms of
writers?
Writing?
You mean for writers?
Yeah,
for writers right now, we're using it basically for research. It's just a fast Google right now. I've had it write scenes. I've said, basically, you can tell my chat or my Gemini, say, write a scene in the final draft format where two people are, sitting at a Starbucks and a guy meets the girl and they fall in love and decide to travel together, whatever, just make some shit up. And basically, you can give it instruction, but by the time you've given it enough instruction where you can actually rewrite the scene that's written, I could have written the scene 3 or 4 times on my own. So it's not faster. They're not hitting the nuanced marks. It feels like it's written by a 6-year-old with a lot of like language skills. They're not there yet. So I think we're still safe. Our union is doing everything it can to keep AI out of the business. And because it's like, but eventually, I don't know, it's probably all going to tumble. But
I think this is a great firsthand look. I was always curious because I know that with the writer's strike a couple of years ago, AI wasn't completely removed from the equation. AI is allowed in writers' rooms, et cetera, with caveats, but that's where they landed on with this first negotiation. So
it's also they're trying to figure out the streaming models have lost income. So they're losing. They're not, the network, when we just had network TV, and most of the television came through the network model where everything was monetized through ad rev. Everybody got rich, man. Everybody made money. Things would go into syndication. We'd all do well. And then the stream models came in, and with streamers, basically you can have a hit show, but if people aren't continuing to buy onto that show, aren't continuing to subscribe, that hit show will go away because they need to bring in something new to get more subscribers. So it's really like there have been great shows that have been canceled because they're not bringing in. They have a great audience base and they're brilliant. They're creatively, critically acclaimed, great actors, whatever. But if they're not bringing in any more subscribers, they're dead. So that model doesn't work because it's too expensive to keep making more and more shows, trying to build up little pieces of audience. So exactly. I think what they're all going to have to do is go back. They're all going to go back to the ad rev version of it's going to be some version of network TV. Thank you, and that'll work, and we'll all be doing a lot better then.
This is actually spot on with what we wanted to cover.
Well, I think if you're in a union or you're not in a union, whatever it is, we just all have to be very vigilant about slowing the pace of the invasive artificial intelligence into our industry. Everything has had its day. TV, we thought with TV was going to kill theater. It didn't. Radio was going to kill this. Movies were going to kill something else. It's like, but AI actually is such a different animal that, Hawking said it wasn't going to be a bomb. It wasn't going to be a virus. It wasn't going to be, meteorite. It was going to be AI that wiped out our civilization. And it's like weird saying that and being serious about it, but that's what everybody is writing about and saying. The smartest men in the world are talking about this, the problem that this is posing for all of us.
Another nod to state laws for AI regulations are still existing right now and survive. So thank God. So just putting a little more love to how important those are. AI is going to be continued, and we're going to see how that unfolds. As far as the streaming contraction, I 100% agree, and I feel like we're feeling the brunt of that. Ultimately, we were just looking for a balanced system that can survive.
It's like it's that safe conservative approach to an art form that takes risk. And when we just had network TV, everybody thought, well, that's the audience. There's like 40 million people out there, and we got to just try. Everybody's going to have to. And then with more networks come in, if streaming come in, like how are we all going to just get a little piece? The audiences are going to get smaller and smaller for each network. But what they learned was that as we expanded more content and more networks, audiences got bigger. Audiences grew, continuing to grow exponentially. There's global markets now. Like I can pitch a show to a company today that and I can be pitching to a person in London, a person in LA, and a person in Mexico, and we're putting an international project together that's going to shoot in Spain, and it's going to air all over the world. That didn't exist 10, 15 years ago, where the international co-pros weren't really happening. but there's not a lack of audience. There's not a lack of dollars out there for people. There's an appetite for more, better, newer, constantly growing new content. But again, they've got to be able to feel comfortable adapting and changing to the new needs of the audiences and figuring out a way to make that they can make money. It's okay to make money. It's not okay to try to save it when you're trying to grow an industry. You got to be risky, man. It's like micro level. As an actor, you guys have to take chances. At a micro level, you have to take chances. Every time you're out there, giving a performance, there's got to be something out there that's people are going to look at that's going to go, wow, that was really fucking fresh. And Rian, I've seen you do it. I have to do the same thing when I write. I can't just write something that's good. It's got to be fucking different. It's got to be bold.
That's the bar. The bar got raised.
No, absolutely, because it's don't be afraid to fall on your face. Like that's It's okay to do that. To realize that the stakes are not as high as you feel like they are.
So I we want to be fair with your time. I mean, to be honest, we could probably talk for 3 hours. We won't.
What is the one question I can maybe answer for you or about anything?
I have a couple of just two quick things. I think, as Ekan said, Friday Night Lights, a little bit about that because it's such an iconic show, and then just a bit about. I don't know. I love your philosophy on life. Like, I really like your approach to life. I love your sort of spirituality. I love that. If you want to talk about that, great. If you don't, I mean, that's totally okay too. We can.
If we were going to boil it down to one question, looking back in your career, what do you think you did right, and what did you think you did wrong?
Okay, good question. I think what I did right was I always allowed the people around me to let them to be as good as they could possibly be, and to not feel like I had to control the room, even if I was running the room. Like the Friday Night Lights, writers, Jason Katims was so brilliant the way he hired John and I, and he hired Bridget Carpenter and Liz Heldens and Roland Jones and Ron Fitzgerald. I'm gonna say all of them because they're all great. David Hudgens and. Did I say Bridget Carpenter and Liz Heldens? Carrie Aaron. I mean, it was such an amazing staff of people, and we all just really loved each other and cared about each other and listened to each other. And I think that's probably what I did right, if anything, is I listened. And also I just never quit. You never, ever, ever quit. Good times, bad times. You just don't ever let doubt seep in. It will, but you can't let it, And that's the thing I did right. The thing I did wrong was I let Michael Mann try to kill me, and
oh my God, we didn't get to this story. We got to hear this story.
And I'm gonna be that next time you have me on. I'll tell you the Michael Mann story. I have I also have Tony Scott stories that are amazing, and the Matthew McConaughey I did with Gagan, the Gold movie.
Yeah,
there's
Gold.
So many great.
There's so much more.
I know. See, that's why we got to have a part 2 here.
We should make this a 2. We should genuinely do a part 2.
On the Blacklist.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I mean, imagine Spader in the Blacklist was like nuts.
Oh yeah, it's too good. It's too good.
Really crazy good times. But I would like to answer one quick question that Ian said about my life. It's like I am sober 9 years, and becoming sober, I found a path to spirituality that allowed me to have a life that I could never imagine, and that was be able to have like truly. I thought one of my biggest fears about getting sober was that I was going to lose my creative spark, and it was the absolute opposite. I actually realized that I'd been writing and working in the business with one arm tied behind my back. Luckily, I was a very nice drunk, but I was a drunk. And so the way I stay sober is through prayer, meditation, Tai Chi, CrossFit, and veganism.
Wow!
Yes. It's like it's not any one thing; it's all of them. That, and I have a program, a spiritual program of recovery that I work in. Some really, very, very fine men that help me. So, And
it really shows. It really shows. I mean, I love your philosophy on life. You've helped me out a ton.
Likewise,
in my life, and I just I'm so continually impressed by your sort of the grace with which you walk through life, your approach to life. It's really inspirational to me. It really helps me a lot. Because when I get caught up in my head with all the bullshit that swims around in there, you've a real clear way of cutting through it. So I'm hugely grateful for that. So
well, you've always been there for me, man. You have since the first time we met. You've always been there for me. If it's been, coming up and doing readings at my house of screenplays or movies or whatever, or just talking me through really difficult times, like for example when my daughter died, and you were there for me, and my house burned down, you were there for me, and I appreciate you, man. So. Yeah,
you too, man. I love you a lot. And we can, if we do a part 2 and you want to touch on any of those things or not, we can certainly, we can.
I'm an open book, man. I don't have anything to hide. There's a lot to talk about. Let's just plan on trying to get together again. I really like meeting you, Econ. It was really great to talk to you. And
this is amazing. But that's a great place to end. And we'll thank you so much for your time, Patrick Massett. Everyone, you're gonna have to stay tuned for part 2. Thank you so much.